Session of the growth and scaling sessions. We've got some amazing guests in the green room, standing by, waiting to talk to all of you.
In today's world, there's more and more opportunity to have a hybrid in between both of those.
Your job isn't to get into the industry to get rich. Your job is to get into the industry to support and provide the best service you can.
Listen, discover, explore. I mean, it's exactly what I tell the brands that we open retail stores for, right?
Hey, welcome back to another session. These are the growth and scaling sessions. If you've never been here before, I invite some of the best minds out there to come and talk with me in a panel discussion about topics related to growth and scaling. If you are in a business that is post-launch, that means you've pushed through the hard stuff and now you're wondering what to do. This is where you want to be, because we're talking with founders and operators of businesses who are in the same shoes you are, trying to figure out where to go next, how to do it, and what's important to their business right now at this time. Today's focus is all about the topic nobody likes to talk about, and that is understanding your financials. I can't even tell you how many founders and operators I talk to who have no clue how to read their financials. That's a huge sin. Like, you got to know what your numbers are telling you, and you got to know what decisions you need to make once you understand what the financials are telling you. So if you're a business operator or you know someone that is, get them on the show right now. Get them on this live. They need to be hearing this discussion because I've got a great guest. Before I introduce her, I want to introduce our topic, which is Captain's Council. The Captain's Council is the newest, greatest CEO peer network group. It's for operators of businesses like you who are still trying to figure out, where do I go next? You're generating revenue, you're profitable, you know what you're doing, but for some reason your growth is stagnant, or you just need that community of other peers, operators of and founders of companies who can help you kind of hear you out, be that sounding board, almost be like that advisory board that you don't have to pay. 10 other active founders who are helping you make decisions to grow and scale your business the right way without falling into the pitfalls we always do. So with that being said, Ariana, I cannot wait to introduce you to the community. Please tell us who you are and what do you do?
Hello. Hi, my name is Ariana Hackman. I am the founder and owner of LunaFit Fresh, and LunaFit Tech. If anyone knows about growth and scaling right now, it's me. We've started 3 businesses in the last 5 years. I'm not sure that I would advise that. Your
Don't.
attention definitely gets divided, and I got lots of stories about my financials and how they've how they've looked in this last 5 years. But yeah, my background and why I wanted to be on this show in particular is in finance. I have a degree in accounting. I worked in corporate finance and healthcare for 15 years. So all I did was look at financials and try to influence them and explain them to people that hated looking at them, right? Like that's
It's crazy.
That's the vibe of any operator. And so now I'm kind of playing both sides, right? I'm operating, but I'm also the CFO of the businesses. So I'm forced to look at the financials and analyze them and make decisions. And one thing that I would say is numbers don't lie.
They don't.
They don't at all. So there's one thing that you always have to remember is that the financial statements are the most important thing that you can look at for your business if you are trying to make changes, because that's really what speaks truth.
Ariana, can you tell us why so many people avoid it? Like, why are so many people not even thinking about their financials? It's like, hey, I'm going to go do some product development. I'm going to go do some marketing. I'm going to boom my sales. It's going to be amazing. And yet they avoid this so much. Why do you think that is?
I think that it's scary, just like anything that you don't understand. I feel like it's just a really scary thing. I think people like to, in business in general, I think we tend to move towards the things that we're really good at and that we understand and that we want to be a part of. And I think that's great because in business, I feel like you have to keep your confidence, which means you have to play into your strengths. But at the same time, if we want to be well balanced and run business as well, we have to become a well balanced operator, which means also learning
Totally.
about our financials and understanding them and asking the questions that need to be asked, and sometimes facing the truth. If you're operating in the red every month and you don't know it, you're going to get to a bad place really quickly.
Really quickly. You know, and it's such a sad thing because business operators all over the world are operating at a net loss, and sometimes they don't even know it. And they don't realize even the products that they're running that are operating way more profitable, but all their focus is on the one that's actually operating at a negative. Now,
Yeah.
we are so lucky because we're going to be blessed by a third guest on our panel today. And I want to just do a brief introduction and get him into the conversation real quick because I know he's super familiar with this topic as well. And Ariana, I don't know about you, but I have never in my life met a baron and a knight and a doctor and a reverend and all that stuff all in one human being. Today you're meeting that person
Impressive.
live. Baron Sir Dr. James Dentley III. Quick intro. Who are you?
Oh,
And what do you
first of
do?
all, hello. How are you
Hello.
doing?
Doing great. So good to have you
Fantastic.
today.
Well, fantastic. I caught the end of Ariana's what she was speaking a moment ago, and I totally agree with that. First of all, 'cause what gets measured gets done, and it's really about having the right systems and processes in place, and not being afraid to invest in your business for what you don't know, because it's always going to be the small things that cause the most damage. Like getting a splinter in your foot, it can incapacitate you with that one little splinter. If the elephant's coming in your way, you know to get out of the way. But that splinter
Right.
can throw your entire equilibrium off. So it's the small things. And if you're not confident in investing in yourself, or if it's a financial issue, you can always create money. So money's not that hard to come by these days. It's available, but most people don't try it because they want to avoid the feeling of it not working, instead of taking a shot and going forward and then building towards getting what they want, because it's always there for everyone who has a dream. So who am I?
Yeah. Who are
Uh,
you?
First of all, I'm very honored to be here, Todd. Honestly, I just received the Legacy Award, my second one last year, which means I must be getting older. And they want to give me a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. It's okay. So give me my Nobel Peace Prize, and I'll be quiet. Just shut up. So my name is Baron of Cappadocia and St. James. Sir Dr. James Dentley. I'm actually a knight of the oldest royal order in the world that started at 312 AD when Constantine made Christianity the religion of Rome, and they owned England and everything.
Crazy.
So, and it's really about how do we get a collective group of people together to help make the world just a little bit better through our example, through our resources, to having access to the things needed to really grow. I am a speaker. I've been speaking for almost 30 years. I've been training speakers for about 28 years. I've worked with and trained and coached. Les Brown is my brother, and he started off teaching me how to tell stories, and I kind of worked with him on everything else and how to monetize it and different ways to use your voice to take that magic and turn that voice into a soundtrack of a movie, to create an experience, because I believe in storytelling. I believe a life worth living is worth recording, and every person has a story. Now, I don't have a college education. My wife's a double scientist and a physicist. I have honorary doctorate degrees in divinity and in business. And she's the smart one. She's very super intelligent. She used to work with nuclear power plants and Homeland Security. So whatever I don't know, I roll over and say, honey, tell me. So
That's why you're still married. That's a smart man right there.
Before there was Google, I had Kara, right? so I had to Google
That's a
that
huge
now.
benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because she'll tell me different voices, and I like that. I retain it better because she doesn't like to tell me 3 times. So I actually produce events. Now we're focused on the limitless experience. We do them in Chicago, and we bring in subject matter experts in different genres. And I train speakers, and I create platforms for them to speak. I also am the founder of JD3 TV, because during COVID, the speakers had no place to speak and everyone's business came to a standstill. People didn't know what to do. And the mental health crisis just kind of crept up on us because we forgot how to handle certain things, and we
For
started
sure.
handling them and operating with emotion. So um, I started Limitless. The Limitless is really about empowerment, but JD3 TV is a success and life success TV network. We also have movies and a variety of sports shows and everything else, but it's quite different, Todd, because this is the only network where the content creators own their content. They have the opportunity to have equity in the company. They get paid as they build it. They have a social media section there. They have live stream. They have their own channel, and they
Right.
work together in harmony. And then we can put them on stages or feature them as well. I was in the movie Beyond Limitations from Donna Melinda Boyer, who's done 17 films from Beyond the Secret. All of their content is on JD3 TV. And my
Awesome.
documentary, Time to Win, is my life story. Now, in 1994, I was homeless, sleeping in a car in Atlanta. I lost everything. In the 80s, I checked myself into rehab for 28 days. I called my family together and said, okay, I teach everybody else how to stop, but I'm not stopping. I'm not a quitter. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I built the most incredible programs to live life and live life on a higher level in my darkest moments, because I had to go through it to have the empathy. I am a cancer thriver. I've been through cancer, and that's a gift for me as well, because I can have different conversations with people that are going through that challenge. And life has been fantastic. I've not worked a job since January 1995. I'm happy every day. I have an incredible family. I love to laugh, love to have fun. I love to teach. I love to help people win. Because if you can impact something in somebody else's life, man, the best things in life are free. However, the
Right.
second best are very expensive. I just bought a Rolls Royce.
Oh, shoot. Who doesn't? Who doesn't need to go buy one of those?
They made it.
Ariana and I were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Now, James, one of the things that I love about you, and this is what I was telling Ariana before you popped in, you not only have been able to find huge success on your own, but also by helping other people. You've
Yeah.
probably helped more people than anyone that I know become a millionaire and adopt the millionaire mindset. And part of that is understanding your financials. You say, I mean, you kind of mentioned that you don't have a college degree, but you know financials, you know money, you know what's making profit. When you meet a lot of the people that you've helped become a success in business, how do you teach them about financials? Because Ariana and I were just talking about how common it is for business operators to avoid looking at financials at all costs. They just don't like doing it.
Yeah.
How do you help them learn to appreciate what their numbers are telling them?
Well, first of all, you got to get clarity on what it is that you want. What is it that you want? What is your gold medal talent? What do you do extremely well? When you find out what you do well, then you kind of can also look at what you don't do well, and you can look at it. Now, number one, it begins with a vision on what do you want? Where do you want to go? I was telling a story this morning on Facebook. 1992, I'm at a friend of mine's house, Carl Patillo. He lived life with so much grace. I mean, we would go out to have cocktails, and he spent like $3,000 on a bar in the 80s. This guy, he just so classy. I'm in his house. I'm looking around at different books. And I remember saying, Carl, I got an idea. He said, what is it? He said, I'm going to make $1 million. You know what he said? Just one. He robbed me.
Right.
I thanked him 2 days ago via text when he congratulated me on becoming a baron. He took from me the ability to think small ever again, number one. Number two, you have to begin with the end in mind. You cannot be afraid to educate yourself and to invest in the education. That's a shortcut. Surround yourself with really, really good people. Because I used to manage restaurants, and not to do that is not to count your cash register every night. And if you don't do that, it's going to be a disaster. If you don't understand inventory of time and of products and services and be able to measure the results you get, then it's going to be short-lived, because people buy results. They don't buy things. They want to get a result from you.
Right.
And you want to deliver that result. If they're hungry, the result is some good food. Okay. If they want to be educated, it's good food. You have to be able to understand numbers and what those numbers mean. Those numbers will tell you everything. I could look at a P&L. I used to manage restaurants when I was 18 years old. I was the youngest general manager in the restaurant chain nationwide, youngest regional.
It's awesome.
Okay. Because I memorized everything, every menu I memorized. And and I could look at your P&L and tell you if your restaurant's dirty, because the way you do little things, the way you do everything. Number one. Number two, you got to know what those numbers should look like and why. If your payroll is too high, then you have a lot of people that are not productive. If it's too low, you have customers that are suffering. What do those percentages look like? There's a book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth. Now, here's the good news. The good news is that when John Maxwell talks about failing forward, I didn't have a mentor.
Yeah.
I never read any of these books. I opened up a lot of companies, and I made short-term success everywhere I went, and I was miserable and burnt out. Once I read The E-Myth, it said, aha, okay. Most people are owning a job. So you may look at what you want, but what do you want to create for humanity, for your family, and what does that look like? Because if you put those components together and create a bigger vision, the rest of that will come together. So the financials have to tie into, are you winning, losing, and tie? What is the benefit? And ask yourself every single day, how can I make this more exciting? How can I mess my customers up, make them love me? This is like I do in my marriage every day. How can I make this woman love me all over every day? And it's fun.
Right.
It's not a chore. It's fun because now it becomes a game. And how can I? The questions, how can I? If you do that, the financial part, I think at some point you have to bring in some experts until you understand what these numbers mean, what you're looking for, and how to get there. And don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the key. Now, last but not least, your success is somebody else's miracle. So get out of the thing about what you can't do and get a reason why you should do it. And then the only question is, how do I create what I need to get to where I want to be? And that's what we like to do for people.
I love it. I love it. Now, that was a great intro. It was a great intro. Now, Ariana is one of those specialists. And that's what I love about what she's doing. She's not only launched 3 businesses in the last 4 years. Is that what you said? 5 years?
We'll call it 5.
Call it 5. Okay. She's not only launched her own businesses in the last 5 years, but she is also a professional at looking at books. She's one of the qualified people that you need to have on your team. And as an entrepreneur, I've always found that people like Ariana are the most successful because they truly understand what's going on. Ariana, what in your opinion is something that, if James were to refer someone to you, say you got to get someone in your life who can tell you how to read your financials, what are some of the first things you start on to help them understand what's going on with their business?
Yeah, I mean, I think you start with the basics, right? It's like 3 numbers. It's like, what are you bringing in? What's your revenue? Like, what are people paying you for? What's going out? What's your expenses?
Right.
What are you paying other people for? And then what's your bottom line? Like, are you making money every month? Are you losing every month? And then I think one other thing, like as entrepreneurs, is like, are you paying yourself in that? Because you actually find a lot of entrepreneurs running businesses that they pay other people to do a lot of things and they're not paying themselves. And I think one of the things that you have to do is find a way to also make money yourself at what you're doing.
100%.
And I think a lot of us get into different businesses and things because we love it. And it's something we're passionate about. And, we kind of forget that part, but that's always really something important to bring in. But I mean, I think if someone's never looked at a financial statement, never done anything like that, like I think you really start with the basics. Like, how much are you bringing in every month? How much are you, pushing out every month? Are you making money? Are you losing money? And how do you improve that number?
Right.
It's usually in both areas too. You can usually do things to improve your revenue, and you usually do things to, reduce your expenses. And especially if you're not looking at it, there's always hidden things that you're just missing.
Right. James, to the layman, they think that gross revenue is what they're making.
Yeah.
When you're talking to someone and saying, look, you're pulling in $1 million, but you're only netting, 50,000. How do you explain that to people in a simple way? Because a lot of them don't understand the difference between what their gross revenue is versus what their net profit is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, an entrepreneur, most business owners, they have very creative imaginations, and they operate on this imagination. Imagination is powerful, man. You got the 80% of life is subconscious, 15 is conscious, and 15 is imagination. That's what creates the world. But you have to have people like Ariana there, because she's going to come and tell you some stuff you don't want to hear and you don't want to face because you're tied into your emotion in one day. That's why it's like the Bible talks about one body, many members. The finger does not do what the toe does, but lose one toe that you never look at, except when you wash it periodically and see how life works out. You're never going to be on an even keel until you learn how to recalibrate your entire body when you lose that.
Right.
So it's these small things that are important because these numbers will tell you how to schedule. It'll tell you what to order. It'll tell you what needs to come in. The numbers will tell you everything. But if you don't have that mindset and that type of mental makeup, a person like we call people like Ariana, my wife's like that. She's a scientist. We call them urchins. They deal with facts. They see what we don't see. See, it's like Walt Disney sees. He saw Disney World, but he didn't have a clue how to do it. John F. Kennedy saw putting a man on the moon, but he didn't know how to do it. He went to Ariana and said, "How do we get to the moon?" He said, "Okay, the wheel to do it. Now let me go to work and put together the numbers." See, and they have to go hand in hand. So I would say, don't worry about trying to figure it out yourself. Stop it, because if you chase the birds, you leave the field. You go and do what you do the best, and you get somebody like Ariana, and you listen and you grow, and in time you'll find a way how this grows together, and it'll make sense for you. And then, whatever you feel is lacking, it will open up the door for it to make sense to you. It goes where it's welcome and stays. It goes where it's invited and stays where it's welcome. So
right. And Ariana, I was gonna say, Ariana, there's a lot of people. There's very, very few businesses out there with one product. Like very, very few that only have one product.
Yeah.
But I would say that there's a lot of businesses that have too many products, and part of growing and scaling is an operation I call the burnout analysis, where you got to review your stuff. What are you actually selling? Which parts of that is profitable? Which parts are not? What is an exercise that you help people go through to recognize their most profitable product and the things that they're wasting a lot of resources on fulfilling that they don't even make a lot of money on?
Sure. Yeah. Just really quickly, for what the Baron was saying too, it's interesting because like I have started and run these businesses with my husband, which just brings extra dynamics into it, right? And it's interesting because he's the creative and then I'm the fact. And so it creates a really interesting dynamic. Running businesses with your spouse is not for the faint of heart, but it's so funny to hear you talk, because it's just like exactly what happens. I bring facts and he's like, no. And I'm like, yes. But it's like, big vision, big picture. Yeah. So really quickly, but it's actually like interesting because the exercise that you're asking about and running through that is something that we've had to continually to do, not only in our services in our gym, but also, we're always thinking of new products to add into our meal prep company. We have sweet treats here and we have these things here. And, when you are working with creative people, they always want to add. But then it's like, okay, we've added all these things. Now let's go back and identify, what are we charging for each one of these services, and what are the expenses that go into each of these things. And I think one of the really important things that you have to point out, especially if you are selling an actual product rather than a service. When you're selling a product, people think that it's, they think of the expenses that are spent on it as small, but you have to include labor into that. You have to include what you're actually spending on the supplies to make it. When we look at a meal, we look at how long does it take someone to make and package that? How much is the packaging? How much are the ingredients that go into that specific meal? Like, there's so much more that goes into the cost of a product than operators typically look at. So really digging into the details of all of it and saying, okay, what does it really cost me to make this? And then what am I selling it for? And I think as well, I always like to look at market expectations of what we're selling it for, because some people want to sell a product because they want so many people to buy it. But there's a really balanced line that you have to find between wanting to sell something at $1 to 1,000 people, or selling something for $5 to, less people, but still making more income because you're valuing your product at what it's worth. And I find, especially in the service industry, that if you undercharge for your product, people also undervalue it. But if you charge more because you're worth it and what you're giving them is valuable, then you're able to charge what you're worth and your value, and people will value and respect your product more and continue to engage with you and usually be more loyal over the long term. So
I love that. And James, here's where it ties back to you, because it's eliminating product, it's understanding your product, but it's also one more thing that I know you in particular focus a lot of your energy on, and that is the lifetime value of a client.
Yeah.
I know that Ariana thinks about this too, because if she's got someone in the door and they're going to stick around for a year, that's a valuable client.
Yeah.
James, I know that all the industries you've been a part of, this is where you put almost all your focus on is how long can I get this person to stick with us and to be part of our community and to build and keep buying our product and things like that. How do you explain that to the typical business owner who only thinks about new client acquisition as opposed to understanding that this is not a one-time deal with this client?
Well, first of all, the referral base by the service you provide is one of your biggest drivers you're ever going to have. It's not what you say, it's what they say about you. When you look at first of all, you can extend that by creating more value. By Spencer Johnson wrote a book, Who Moved That Cheese? Who Moved My Cheese, right? I was like, how do we put more in there to keep it so exciting that you can't leave? It's so irresistible. And I'll give you a good example. If you were to pay me to get something of value, let's say $50 a month. And then I said, after 6 months, where you commit to staying with us 6-9 months, I'll give you a cruise, 5-day, 4 nights, you pay your port fees and taxes. Is that value for you? Yeah. But I'll do it at the precipice of you wanting to leave. And then I'll put it in there because I already know what my number is going to be and how to keep you moving forward, because we take so many things for granted. We get emotional. But I just want to say a couple things really, really quick, because Ariana, I want to meet your husband, because what I found is that my wife's always right, and I accept that. And it's always good. And it's not, and never from a nag. We don't nag. We don't argue anything. We get on every day. But I really like that because I know I can trust that she has that part locked down. There were 2 comedians that got together and started dating and got married. And one comedian was very analytical. The other one was this big dreamer, very creative. And one was very factual. And the other one talks about a hypothesis. And the very analytical wife comes to him and said, I don't think your last comedy set was that good. And he took offense to it. He says, well, you have a 320 credit score. He said, don't be bringing facts into this relationship. My opinion. So the point is that when you're faced with those hard truths, laugh, learn, grow. Everything's not personal. You have to get out of your own way, because do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? Do you want to be correct and be this genius person, or do you want to be a person that creates impact and value to the world? The second thing is that you raise your prices and increase your value. I was speaking with a young lady 15 minutes before this Zoom, and she was selling coaches for $5,000. But who she is, I said, but you'll get $5,000 a month. I said, well, you really can do it no, she said, what was it, $1,500 a month? I said, well, on the low end, it's $5,000 to $50,000 for you, for what you bring, because you'll solve so many problems. So it's really about the value proposition, irresistible offer. Make sure you back it up and make sure that if something goes wrong, you fix it. Make it a game where you get excited about helping people win. But you need Rihanna there to guide you, because I'm the horse that would go off the cliff, and she's the one that says, whoa, whoa.
Right. Well, no, these are such good points. And I about probably 2010, somewhere in the early teens, I was working with a client partner who we were selling nutraceutical products online, primarily marketed through Facebook. And I'll never forget, Facebook changed their algorithm. They changed how everything was working, and it threw a lot of us off. And our cost per acquisition, which is the cost it took for us to pay for enough people to see our landing page, to actually buy and check out, now became slightly greater than our cost per acquisition, and for our revenue per new acquisition. And we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's costing us $120 to get a $99 purchase. This is now a defunct model. Like, we can't make money at this. And we started to discover that we were obviously really angry at Facebook, and we were trying to figure out, we looked at our numbers and we had our financial guy take a look at the P&L with us. And we're like, well, wait a second. The person that buys this $100 product is also going to, we have 78% of them are going to rebuy next month. Can we float that $20 one month and then make $70 net off of that sale? And the numbers aren't exact, but what we ended up discovering is that because we looked at the numbers, because we looked at the financials, we were able to then say, hey, you know what? Let's try one of these bump offers, because bump sales were a new thing back then. Let's try adding a bump sale on. And if we get 20% of the people to buy this $30 bump sale, now we're making money. Because even if we break even on the first month, guess what's going to happen in month 2 and month 3 and month 4? And we knew our attrition rate, and we knew that client's lifetime value was enough that it was worth it. Even if we lost $20 first month, that second, third, fourth, and fifth month, we're going to make us money. And James, as you work with people, for example, trying to buy TV spots, trying to, with your new programs and things like that, a lot of speakers don't get paid to speak, but they make money on the sale of whatever they're selling on their speaking engagement. How do you teach that principle of, hey, you know what? Know your numbers. Know your numbers, because if you do, you can lose a little money up front to get a long-term client after.
Yeah. It's you covered that part about the importance of those numbers and where they drive you, and how you have to have long-term thinking. Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. I was at an event, and I do events, and just think of it like this. They have an event there that they would let a TR event used to let people in, a 4-day event. You come in absolutely free. And all they do is give away content, value, teach you and train you, give you so much value that you can walk away with an impact in your life from the first day. You got 3 days to go.
Yeah.
The last 2 days, he would bring speakers to the stage that could sell a program and product and literally make millions of dollars. I was at an event in Florida, some friends of mine put on. They had 2,000 people in the room. Now, they started off with free events, got them in the funnel, gave more value, so much value people thought they were crazy. Now they have 2,000 people in the room, each paid a minimum of $500 to be there. And then 300 people went and bought a package for $30,000 a person. Did it work? Mm-hmm. And so we look around, we feel like there's a lack of money. No, there's just a lack of people understanding that it's so important in this era we live in to invest in yourself. Now, you're talking about specific numbers. You and Ariana have that covered. I know my numbers. I know my cost per customer acquisition. I know what has to happen there. But I still bring in experts to see what I cannot see. What I look at is that, how do I create a vision and create the value so strong and so impactful that people will do whatever it takes to be there, and then it's up to me to deliver that. Because I'm always in a position I can give them their money back so nobody loses, but they have to do the work. 88 people become 7 to 8-figure money earners, not because I'm so brilliant. I just teach the things that brilliant people taught me that work. And if you do the work, because I can't take credit for your success, I won't. I'm just excited to be a little bit part of the spark that got you moving in that direction, and to support you and encourage you, and to show you that you have it inside of you and how important it is, not from a money standpoint, but if you understand the numbers from your financials, then you understand the importance of raising your children the same way, if you think that way. The same thing when you want to raise your relationship. Same thing when you want to deal with your health. It's the little small things you do that make the biggest difference if you pay attention and you make them important. So do you want to be right, or do you want to get there and stay there and grow beyond there?
I love it.
Yeah.
Ariana, what do you feel like is something that's important? We've talked about a lot of different topics about financials, and you are one that does understand them probably better than both of us. How do you help? Where do you start? Because a lot of people literally are lucky to be reconciling their books until they get a proper bookkeeper or controller in their company to really kind of start processing things in the right categories.
Yeah.
Where do you help people get the momentum to start understanding what their books are telling them?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of resources out there these days. I mean, even if you Google, financial statement template, you'll find you'll find something in there that you can use. And there's lots of tools like QuickBooks and other things that'll almost do it for you now. So I think it's really looking for the tools and resources to help you get it organized a little bit. But again, it's the basics. If you every day, every week, every month look at what money came in today, what money went out today, that's really just the most important. Just basic revenue, expenses, and your net income is really, if you're just starting, like, forget categories, forget everything
Right.
else. If you literally have looked at nothing, just say, what am I making, what am I spending, what am I getting to my bottom line that can help me grow my business?
Awesome.
And then, I think, like, as the topic of today of what does it tell you, you really do have to make sure that you are getting repeat customers and repeat sales and things like that, because we had a big spike in our meal prep business. And we realized that those, when you grow too fast, sometimes you have to stop and make adjustments. And we grew hugely in a month and realized that those same people weren't coming back. And that'll tell you have a product issue, right? Or you're not delivering the value that they were paying for. And so we had to go back and reassess and make adjustments. And now we're on that growth train again. And I think it's really important, like I said, to look at your numbers, because your numbers are the things that will not lie to you. Your customers will lie to your face because they don't want to hurt your feelings, and they want to like you and they want to invest in you, but they're just waiting for you to give them what they're really asking for. So numbers don't lie, and being able to see those dips and keep going, that's what makes you a real entrepreneur and will give you success. And like James said, the little things consistently over time are what gets you there.
Well, in closing, because we've kind of reached the tipping point here, I think we've really expressed the importance of these financial statements and how to understand the P&L. And in closing, I'd love to get from both of you. We'll start with you, Ariana, because you're in the hot seat right now. In terms of exit, so many companies fail to think about exit, and the P&L is one of the best indicators of what that exit is going to look like. If someone came to you today and wanted to buy your company, what valuation would your company be? Can you talk briefly about what the P&L tells us and what things you might look at in there to say, you know what? If I exited today, I'd be this, but if I did this over the next 2 years, what is that going to do to my number? Will you speak briefly on that? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a really good question. It's crazy. I was just having dinner with another entrepreneur the other evening who's been very successful, and he asked me about our tech company that we're working on. He's like, "Are you doing it for money or for passion?"
Right.
And I think when you're looking at any exit strategy, that's the question you really have to ask yourself, because that's a very different strategy for each one. If you're doing it for money, you want to maximize your revenue and you want to reflect every dollar of income that you possibly can on your financial statements, on your taxes, on all of that, because that's what your valuation is going to be based on. If you're doing it for passion, it's a little bit different, because that's a longer term strategy and you have more time to really put love into it and add value and things like that. But like in our tech company, if we just get eyes in the app, that's sellable. So there's so many things today too that you can evaluate for what people will pay for.
I love
it. So it's not only income, but it's also how many people do you have engaged, because people are a commodity in the business world. Eyes on social media, eyes on your product, data. There's so many things that you can sell. So if you really want to exit and you're looking to make money, you got to look at what you're reflecting on the bottom line, how many eyes or people you have in your business, and then how much data you collect from them, because those are all things that are saleable in the business market.
I love it. I love it. Baron, Sir Dr. James Stanley III, what are your thoughts on exit?
Well, this is why this is why I've been staying out of her way. And going a different angle of the same thing. Every company I built with an exit strategy. Because sometimes we get in there on emotion, but what happens if you don't love it anymore? And now what you love becomes a chore. It becomes a stress factor for you. And some people They want to do it because they love it, but then they really have given themselves a job that they own. And it has consequences to it. So what is it that you really truly want? I think that's the biggest part, because if a person doesn't understand where they want to go, they end up where they don't want to be. They're happenstance. Everything I build to take public or to sell. Everything. But the main thing Ariana said is the database, and that's where people miss it. The customers you have in the database, they like you, they trust you, you love them, you show them that. And you can also bring things of value to them, because they're going to leave you and spend money someplace else anyway. How do you get in front of that? How do you create joint ventures and collaboration with other people doing amazing things and get there? You can still make the money. You still have this community, and you're going to need that, especially as we go into the new financial model, as the financial system is shifting anyway, whether we like it or not. So when you look at an exit strategy, I believe you have to do it. And the other biggest problem is that less than 1/10 of 1% of people who start a business every single day, they're not taught how to scale it. They just want to make money. They just want to make it work. They want to see the dream come to life. You have to learn from the beginning how to scale. My good friend of mine, Jeff Hoffman, wrote a book called Scale. He was the co-founder of Priceline. And when you go to the airport, see those kiosks where you get your boarding pass, he created all that. From a vision, frustration, without any experience in hardware, he created that, sold it for $100 million.
Thank you.
All over the world.
Thank you to him.
Yeah. Once you're free, I've left my last working job January 13th of 95. When you're free, you would be surprised how creative you can get when you start living your life like Peter Pan again.
I love that.
Create. That's the key. Life is to be fulfilled, and the way you fulfill life is experience. So when you want to stay in a box, great, but get the most out of that box that you're in. And lastly, I'll say this, I'm done. People have you ever heard the term think outside of the box?
Of course.
I can't stand that, because in my world there is no box. And if there's no box, there's only possibility. Because you're trying to just get outside of something. I'm trying to expand with all possibility. And if you look at where the world has come, from the days of even if no matter what your spiritual background is, if it's Christ tapping on a rock and there's wine, look at what we can do with technology now. Look at where we're going out throughout space, and where we can explore what we're learning every single day. It is not about a ceiling, it's about the trajectory. It's about learning and growing, experiencing, loving, and leaving an impact. And that's it. Be either a great example or a terrible reminder, but we all count.
I love it. I hate to even throw an ending onto this, but because that was such a great finish. James, I appreciate both of you, Ariana, James. You guys are amazing, amazing people with amazing backgrounds, and all of us are so unique. But there is one thing that brings us all together. We are business operators and founders, and that is so powerful. I highly encourage anyone out there listening, if you're not the best at looking at your financials, guess what? Somebody next to you is. Like in this case, Ariana is the one of the three of us who knows how to read them probably better than both of us. She could give us tips. This type of community is something that we've been trying to represent. The sponsor of the show, Captain's Council, is something where we bring founders and operators together to have these types of conversations. Exit strategy, financials, understanding your true costs. How do I deal with my employees? What is my next step in my growth strategy? Hey, Ariana, could you help me with this? James, could you help me with that? These are the types of things that you don't get on your own. You get these through collaborating and communicating with other founders and operators of businesses. And that's what we do in the Captain's Council. So anyone out there who's interested in that kind of community, that kind of connection with other CEOs and founders, I highly recommend you check out Captain's Council today. And I appreciate so much both of you for being part of the show today and talking about this hugely important aspect of our business, reading our numbers and understanding what they're telling us, because that alone will help so many of you out there get out of the numbers crunch you're in right now and feel like you're actually making money. That's what we all want to feel. So thank you so much for being here. And you've been a blessing to everyone listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great.